So today we're talking about the smearing, and this is the technique now that Russiagate made cool again, is so when Tulsi Gabbard spoke out against the Democratic Party and the war in Syria, she was immediately smeared, McCarthy smeared, as a Russian, right? Hillary Clinton suggests Russians are grooming Tulsi Gabbard. So that's what happens. So if you go against the establishment, they immediately do. And it doesn't matter that she was a congresswoman when she said that about her. And it doesn't matter that she's an officer in the military of the United States currently serving in those wars. It doesn't matter. That's what they do. Okay. Remember when Trump disparaged that Gold Star family and everybody was clutching their pearls? They do it to people who are alive. Trump did it to a dead soldier. They're doing it to alive soldiers. Okay. And so I just want to tell you, so she came out, Tulsi Gabbard, and she said there are 25 U.S.-funded biolabs in Ukraine, which is breached, if breached, would release and spread deadly pathogens to the United States and the world. We must take action now to prevent disaster. The U.S., Russia, Ukraine, NATO, UN, European Union, they must implement a ceasefire now around these labs until they're secured and pathogens destroyed. Now, I don't know what that sounds like to you, Max, but that sounds to me like very reasonable. That we now know that there are biolabs in Ukraine that the United States government is worried about, right? So this is all correct. So what Tulsi Gabbard what she's saying has just been confirmed by the Undersecretary of State, Victoria Nuland, in front of Congress, right?
Well, Victoria Nuland said the U.S. was working to secure these biolabs. But there's nothing dangerous in the biolabs, according to U.S. media and the people attacking Tulsi Gabbard. So why do they have to be secured?
That's the question. So when she said this, a whole firestorm was set off. Mitt Romney then said Tulsi Gabbard is parroting false Russian propaganda. Her treasonous lies may well cost lives. So he's calling her a traitor. That's the word. Her treasonous lies. So she's a traitor. She's currently an officer in the military. She serves in those bullshit wars that they all are for. And so that prompted Ana Navarro and everybody at The View. By the way, I'm going to show you the video of this in a second. It is 5 minutes long, and it is probably the most, and I've shown a lot of amazing videos on the show. To me, it's the most amazing video I've ever shown on the show. And it's coming up. So I don't mean to bury the lead, but Ana Navarro calls for the Department of Justice to investigate Russian propagandists like Fox News' Tucker Carlson and Tulsi Gabbard for shilling for Putin. Do you want to hear her say it? Here, she says it.
Yeah. And I think DOJ, in the same way that it is setting up a task force to investigate oligarchs, should look into people who are Russian propagandists and shilling for Putin. That's being, if you are a foreign asset to a dictator, it should be investigated. Yeah. And I think...
So there you have it. She wants the government of the United States to start investigating military officers, ex-Congress people, anybody who says what Victoria Nuland said in front of Congress, which I'll show you in a second. And so Ana Navarro, her husband, Al Cardenas, is a partner at the law firm of Squire Patton Boggs, which had offices in Moscow and has been working with the Russians for years. Worth asking how much of Anne's household income comes from dealing with the Russians. So I guess if you want to go down that. So now, why is this a big deal? Because the fake fact checkers, the establishment, when we hear you say they, this is who I'm talking about. This is the corporate funded fake establishment fact checkers, or not fake fact checkers of the establishment. They were saying that there was no biolabs. They kept saying that was a conspiracy theory. Russians targeted. There is no run biolabs. There is no U.S. run biolabs that's just false. There are. How do I know there are? Well, that false claims of bioweapons. It's QAnon crazy. How do I know that those fact checkers are wrong and it's real? Because the Undersecretary of State was asked by Marco Rubio.
Does Ukraine have chemical or biological weapons?
Ukraine has biological research facilities, which, in fact, we are now quite concerned Russian forces may be seeking to gain control of. So we are working with the Ukrainians on how they can prevent any of those research materials from falling into the hands of Russian forces should they approach.
So that's what set off the firestorm of everybody. Oh my God, it is true. There are biolabs in Ukraine, and you are afraid that Russia might get a hold of them because of why? Because you're trying to cure a cold, or because you guys are up to some nefarious stuff. And so that's what made everybody like, oh my God, she's admitting it. But even then, Matt Orfalea caught this. Even then, they won't stop lying. So that was her on the 8th of March. She said, yes, the Ukraine has biological research facilities, that we are now quite concerned that that research material might fall into Russians' hands. And then on March 14th, here's a NBC headline: Russian propaganda on Ukraine's non-existent biolabs boosted by U.S. far-right. They're still, even after she admitted it on video in Congress, they're still lying. So just so you know, when she says this, she's not lying. She's being honest. And who lies about biolabs and funding? The government does all the time. Here's, in a major shift, the NIH admits funding risky virus research in Wuhan. And so there they are. They've denied it for a year, and then they finally admitted it. And he lied about it to Congress. Fauci lied at least 2 times that I saw personally. And then people will do things like this. People will say it's Russian messaging intended to make people think that the U.S. was working with Ukraine to create bioweapons, not working together to clean up Soviet-era biolabs. That's the new propaganda that, oh, no, we were just working with Ukraine to clean up the Soviet-era biolabs. We're trying to clean them up. If we were trying to clean them up, does that take 30 years? We're trying to clean them up for 30 years. Okay, so that gives you the double CK. And Tulsi Gabbard comes back and she says to Mitt Romney, your claim that securing these labs, or even calling for securing these labs, is treasonous and will lead to a loss of life, when the exact opposite is obviously true. The spread of pathogens is what will cause the loss of life, not the prevention of such spread. Senator Romney, please provide evidence that what I said is untrue and treasonous. If you cannot, you should do an honorable thing and apologize and resign from the Senate. Yes. Of course he won't. So Glenn Greenwald sums it up. In the past 48 hours, the Daily Beast implied Gabbard is a Kremlin asset. Romney accused her of treason. The View host called the Department of Justice to criminally investigate her and Tucker Carlson. And Keith Olbermann said the duo should be militarily detained. This is really happening. The founders limited treason in the Constitution due to the concerns it would be abused to criminalize dissent, what is now routine. Neocons weaponized it during the war on terror. It was the dominant theme of the Trump years. The war in Ukraine has brought it to all new levels. So here's this guy who agrees with Mitt Romney, but he wants him to go farther. What about Donald Trump? What about Madison Cawthorn? What about Marjorie Taylor Greene? What about Tucker Carlson? There are many other Republicans. They're all traitors. So I'm going to show you this video in a second, but before I do, let me bring in Max, because this video is I can't overstate how crazy it is, and it's the craziest piece of video I've ever shown. And so I just wanted to sit tight. Max, come in, and I'm not. That's not hyperbole. Wait till you see it. My jaw is still on the floor, metaphorically. So go ahead.
Let's watch the video.
Should we watch this video? Okay.
Fox News' host, Tucker Carlson, is apparently a big hit in Russia right now. Yeah. The website Mother Jones posted a leaked Kremlin war memo instructing Russian state media to play Tucker Carlson clips as much as possible. And Tulsi Gabbard is being accused of spreading Russian false flag propaganda. Here's what they've both been saying about the war. Take a
So listen, this is a compilation of the bad stuff that they should be investigated for. You ready for this? Okay.
Democrats in Washington have told you have a patriotic duty to hate Vladimir Putin. It's not a suggestion, it's a mandate. Anything less than hatred for Putin is treason. Hating Putin has become the central purpose of America's foreign policy. Secret biolabs? Like the secret biolabs Ukraine definitely doesn't have? Ukraine has those? Yes, it does.
There are 25 to 30 U.S.-funded biolabs in Ukraine. According to the U.S. government, these biolabs are conducting research on dangerous pathogens. Now, like COVID, these pathogens know no borders. If they are inadvertently or purposely breached or compromised, they will quickly spread all throughout Europe, the United States, and the rest of the world, causing untold suffering and death.
So Mitt Romney claims Gabbard is...
So everything that they just said there was factually correct. And none of it was supporting Putin or being a traitor to this country. That was, those are all relevant points of a debate is what they were doing. Okay. Now watch what the View does.
Treasonous lies that could cost lives. So I'm just going to open it up to the table. What the hell's going on?
So I think Mitt Romney's absolutely right, by the way. So what this is the Russians are spreading propaganda to try to create a pretext for potentially using chemical weapons against the Ukrainians.
Right.
So what they're parroting, what Tucker Carlson parrots every night on Fox News, what Tulsi Gabbard is spreading, is actually helping Putin get away with criminal acts against innocent Ukrainian civilians.
And what you're parroting on The View every day certainly isn't CIA talking points, certainly isn't stenography from the State Department. It certainly isn't the establishment narrative. What you're hearing on The View certainly isn't something. It's certainly stuff they thought up themselves. Okay, here we go.
It's horrifying, and what's so hard for me to understand, we've all been watching in horror as these people are being killed, mothers in maternity wings. Can you imagine taking...
You know what I love about when we invaded Iraq, Libya, Afghanistan, Syria? We didn't kill any mothers in maternity wards. Okay.
the position of like, Putin, not so bad of a guy. It's just bizarre. It's un-American.
How do you suppose he gets away with that? I mean,
it's the most watched man in cable news. It's actually really scary.
Oh my God! Half the country must be traitors. They can't. He's the most watched man in cable news. How could that? How could this be happening? Our whole country's full of traitors. Oh my God!
And truckers.
And truckers and traitors.
And unvaccinated traitors.
Unvaccinated trucker traitors.
Who are anti-vaxxers and fascists who are traitors and Russian anti-vaxxer truckers.
Truckers.
It's all one thing.
Yes, it's all trucker. January 6th, trucker, traitor.
Insurrectionist anti-vaxxers.
What? No, watch what Joyce Flex is here.
Tucker. If there's a Tucker and Laura Ingraham and Tulsi Gabbard, all of them.
Listen, the Fox board of directors.
All of them are traitors. Tucker Carlson, Tulsi Gabbard, Laura Ingraham, everybody. They're all of them. They're not people I disagree with politically. They're traitors.
Should really step in. If they call themselves patriots and they, it's not enough to be posting flags about Ukraine. There's a bunch of folks on that board of directors list, like my friend Paul Ryan, who I wish would be weighing in and saying we cannot be.
So they're calling for the board of directors of Fox News to silence people.
Russian state TV, at least not every hour.
We cannot be Russian state TV, but you can be Raytheon state TV. You can be Halliburton state TV. You can be Boeing state TV. And you can be the United States state TV, because that's what you guys are doing. You're repeating talking points directly from the State Department and the CIA.
I guess for me, the question is, what is in it for someone like Tucker Carlson, right? I mean,
what is in it for him not to be for a war? What is in it for Tucker Carlson to go against the establishment's narrative around a foreign war in a country that she couldn't pick out on a map? What is in it for Tucker Carlson to do that?
Is it money? Who's paying him that money? Yeah. I'm not making any allegations.
What is in it for us to be in this war?
Who's paying him? I'm not making any allegations. I'm just making allegations because I'm projecting, because everything I've ever done,
that's right.
From her point of view, is for money. That's like the whole perspective of The View.
That's exactly right.
Complete,
Tucker Carlson's actually freer to speak his mind over there because of all the boycotts by people on the left. He doesn't have many advertisers left, so he can speak his mind because it doesn't matter. That's actually the fact. I asked him the same thing. I didn't say what's in it for you. I asked, why are you allowed to tell the truth about Syria? That was my question. And I said, aren't your advertisers going to leave? And he says, I don't have any advertisers. He said most of them left already. So he has freedom that way. So here we go. This gets worse.
But it doesn't make sense that he would do this kind of thing. I mean, he also says that the United States helped encourage the Russian invasion. He said.
So she's saying these things as if they're lies. The United States and NATO did provoke this. That's what we've been revealing to you for the last 3 weeks at the show, is how NATO in the West has provoked this, and how the United States, Biden, is using the people of Ukraine as cannon fodder for a proxy war, and it's all about energy transfers and capitalism. And she's saying these things as if they're lies. She's repeating facts and saying, can you believe they're saying these things as if they're, well, here we go. I'll play
this kind of thing. I mean, he also says that the United States helped encourage the Russian invasion.
We did.
He said the United States engineered a coup in Ukraine in the name of democracy.
We did.
He, as we just mentioned, confirmed.
He said that?
Tucker said that?
Tucker Carlson is running around spreading the truth.
That Tucker, Tulsi, trucker, anti-vaxxer said that?
Trucker.
That is fascist.
That was quite a... Here, let's back it up.
In Ukraine in the name of democracy. He, as we just mentioned, confirmed these Russian claims about bioweapons.
Those things are all true. There are biolabs in Ukraine. The United States government confirms it, and we're afraid that Russia will get a hold of them because the stuff that's in there is so dangerous. She's saying all these things as if none of them are true. They're the dumbest people on the planet.
Yeah, they are the dumbest people because they actually have access to education and resources,
yes,
unlike almost everyone else on the planet, and they just choose to be stupid.
They're stupid on purpose.
And he's characterizing this situation as a border dispute. Right? And so what is in it for him? I know that he's visited Moscow and other places.
I know that he's visited. Look at this. This is unbelievable. I know he's visited Moscow, so that's bad. You're never supposed to visit Moscow.
You can tell me in my ear if I'm wrong.
Other places. Like, you're not supposed to visit other places.
You're not supposed to visit. You're Americans. You speak English, no other languages, and you stay in America.
Go to Arby's. You stay home.
About that, but I just don't understand what the impetus is.
I hope he's planning to move to Moscow because he's not going to be welcome here for much longer.
I think.
Do his viewers like it?
If you're not for this Ukraine war, you're not going to be welcome in the United States much longer. The #1 host on cable news is not going to be welcome in the United States much longer. Do you see the bubble that they live in? Do you see that also they have no idea that there's another opinion out there, that they don't know everything?
I mean, if you closed your eyes, you'd think you were listening to a John Birch Society meeting from like 1958.
Yes.
Was that the lady from Beaches? Like, was that Bette Midler?
Right, no kidding.
Who is that lady?
That's Joy Behar. That's Joy Behar.
I always confuse her with Bette Midler, but I mean, come on. And it's seriously, it sounds like something out of a McCarthy era hearing.
This sounds like out of a movie. Like if you were doing a movie about that time of the Red Scare and and this was a talk show on TV, then that's what you would put it in. You couldn't, people would say, Jimmy, that's a little over the top.
Or it sounds like Fox News during the Bush era.
Everybody was a traitor who didn't want to be invading Iraq. Here we go.
I remember some guy.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I just remember I was protesting the war outside the Oscars in LA, the war on Iraq. And a guy walked up to me and was like, you better go back to Baghdad.
I mean, I don't
think his ratings have dropped at all. And look, but I think that's an incredibly relevant question. Yeah. And I think DOJ, in the same way that it is setting up a task force to investigate oligarchs, should look into people who are Russian propagandists and shilling for Putin. That's being, if you are a foreign asset to a dictator, it should be investigated. In fact, I remember when Tulsi Gabbard, and I even hate that we're discussing it because I think to myself, who is this woman? She's she's no longer in Congress. She's a failed presidential candidate. She only practically exists on Twitter. And the fact that we're giving her oxygen is what makes her relevant, that we're talking about her on Hot Topics. But on the other hand, how do you not call out something that is repeating false Russian propaganda?
By the way, do you ever watch clips of The View and go, who is this woman, Ana Navarro? Have you ever she said, who is this woman, Tulsi Gabbard? I'll tell you who she is. She's a former congresswoman. She's also an officer in the military right now, serving in those wars you cheerlead. And everybody knows who she is. She's the one who almost single-handedly knocked Kamala Harris out of the primary. Anyway, it's okay. So I just want to let you know, Ana Navarro was born in 1971 to a wealthy landowning family in Nicaragua. She and her family moved to the United States in 1980 because of political turmoil, though her father stayed behind and continued to fight with the Contras against the Sandinista government. They're the bad guys. The Contras are the bad guys. She later said the then U.S. President Ronald Reagan's support of the Contras made her a lifelong Republican. She has served in a number of Republican administrations, including Jeb Bush's, as well as being his director of immigration policy. Navarro was married to a lawyer and lobbyist, Al Cardenas, who has been named as the Washington, D.C.'s top lobbyists by the Hill newspaper. That's who she is. A really great person.
Well, she's way worse than that even indicates. I mean, she is doing everything. She has spent her career doing everything she's falsely accusing Tucker Carlson and Tulsi Gabbard of. She made her money, her fortune, and her husband as literal foreign agents, as registered agents of foreign dictatorships and corrupt governments that looted their country's coffers and paid her hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars every few months to be their principal lobbyist in Washington. One such government was the Nicaraguan neoliberal government of Arnaldo Alemán, who went to prison after stealing $100 million in an embezzlement scheme. His top lobbyist in Washington was Ana Navarro. Her husband, Al Cardenas, he was one of the main partners at Patton Boggs, big lobbying firm in Washington, has some of the most autocratic and corrupt governments on its payroll as clients. He represented Romeo Lucas Garcia, who is the former president of Guatemala, who oversaw hundreds of massacres in a brutal counterinsurgency campaign. Ana Navarro went on to represent the corrupt neoliberal government of Antonio Saca, who was from the Arena Party, which is the party of the Salvadoran Contras, founded by a guy named Robert Debusson, or Blowtorch Bob, because of his penchant for torturing, murdering, and exterminating political rivals. I mean, her forms I tweeted one of the forms out, her FARA forms, her foreign agent forms. She was making hundreds of thousands of dollars from these characters. And now she's running around accusing a media personality of being a foreign agent for a corrupt dictator. That's her.
That's her.
Look in the mirror.
So this gets worse. I know that you didn't think this could. It's going to get worse.
Has been brought down.
They used to arrest people for doing stuff like this. If they thought you were...
They're calling for them to be arrested.
They used to arrest people for criticizing their government. What happened?
Where's
America today? What happened? We used to not have a First Amendment. Oh yeah, we got Julian Assange, but arrest what Tulsi Gabbard.
This is what Whoopi Goldberg should be suspended from The View for.
Yes.
Colluding with a Russian agent, if they thought you were putting out information or taking information and handing over to Russia. They used to actually investigate stuff like this, and I guess now, there seems to be no...
We need an investigation from the Ministry of Truth to see if you're lying, and then arrest you. That's what she was calling for. That's the genius of Whoopi Goldberg. So
she should really stick to Holocaust scholarship and
she should really stick
stay off the legal stuff.
So if Whoopi Goldberg had a hand in writing the Constitution, we wouldn't have freedom or liberty in this country. She would be, you're not allowed to, if you're criticizing our government, especially during war, you should be investigated and arrested. You're not allowed to dissent. So this is all them repeating CIA and State Department talking points to shame dissent and shut down dissent for war. This is how they manufacture consent for war. Whoopi Goldberg is manufacturing consent for war along with the rest of the empty-headed morons who are on that show called The View. The dumbest women in the world are on The View. And Whoopi Goldberg is the leader of the dumb.
I don't know if she's the dumbest one.
And people are not being told to hate Putin. Putin doesn't need a reason to be hated. It's
really? People aren't being told to hate Putin. Did you know that? Did you know that, Max? People aren't being told to hate Putin, except they're being told every minute of the day. And if you don't hate Putin, you should be investigated.
I guarantee you Putin has more name recognition in the U.S. than the next Republican presidential nominee.
That's right.
Unless it's Trump.
pretty much clear.
He started a war.
He started an unnecessary war
this is kind
that
of
nobody
like,
wanted.
isn't this contributing?
Who else started an unnecessary war that nobody wanted? Let me guess. Oh, it was the United States. Killed 1 million people in Iraq. Had a torture program. Still goes on today. We have a torture facility in Cuba. Who turned Libya into a failed state with open slave martins? We did that. Who dropped more bombs? They had to run out of bombs. We dropped so many bombs in Syria. These people are the most clueless, empty-headed, moron, idiot ditzes in the world. And what they're doing is manufacturing consent for a war that's going to slaughter the very people they claim to care about. They're manufacturing consent for that.
To the death and destruction of the country and the civilians there?
Well, this is why I say, how can they pat themselves on the back and say, good job?
Well,
when you know he just blew up a hospital with children. Well, Fox viewers know it. They see it.
Fox viewers do know it. My concern also is, do the Russian people don't know it?
No.
I know this weekend, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think Instagram was taken down in Russia. They really are. They almost have a digital curtain now over all information coming out.
Unlike here in the United States. Unlike here in the United States. Where they
no, she wants a digital. I mean,
that's what they're asking for. That's the whole
episode is.
Go ahead, Max.
Yeah, no, the whole point of this is, give us our own digital curtain.
That's exactly they're calling for the investigation and arrest of the people, not only to shut them down, have Fox News take them off the air and shut them down. They're calling for their investigation and arrest. Much worse than what they're claiming to care about. Ew, Instagram.
Of Russia, and I think a lot of Russians, they've been reporting, they believe that this war is some sort of great mission.
They think it's a peacekeeping mission because that's what's being reported on TV.
Except for the people who are out protesting.
But in the same way, it almost seems impossible to believe. And then you realize there's people in America who think January 6th was, some sort of patriotic act.
So you knew she was going to bring January 6th in there somehow. So that's the end of that clip. They are the exact thing they claim to hate. Everybody's a Russian, everybody's a traitor. They should be investigated and arrested. What happened to this country? Didn't we used to intimidate, blackball, and arrest and investigate people who were dissenters?
Yeah. I mean, let's consider what's really happening here. Do we think that Whoopi Goldberg, Anna Navarro, who was a proxy for the Biden campaign, and the rest of these characters, I barely even know who they are. Like, I'll see them on silent when I'm like getting my hair cut. I don't even know who they are. But do we think they just sat around in the green room planning this themselves? No. What happened here was very similar in my estimation, or what I think happened here is very similar to what recently happened with 30 top Zoomer and millennial TikTok influencers, where the White House gathered them, told them what to say, and gave them talking points on escalating the war and pushing back against all the anti-war and anti-imperialist TikTokers that are gaining huge followings. And then they were promoted through corporate media and pro-Biden, pro-Democratic Party channels. And so that's what happened here. They were briefed, they were given talking points from the top. This is being fed to them by
the White House.
A White House that cannot face the people, a White House that cannot communicate directly with the American public. They need to use as intermediaries some of the most banal and stupid people in our society to push back against something they never saw coming, which is a Fox News host and a former U.S. soldier and member of Congress.
She's not former U.S. soldier. She's a former member of Congress. She's a currently serving officer.
Current member of the military, ripping to shreds the official narrative day after day, night after night. So this call for arresting media personalities, this call for arresting people who dissent from the official neocon interventionist narrative that is being pushed by the Blinken State Department, especially, and from within the Biden NSC, this is coming from the top. This is coming from our government. It's not just a bunch of rogue, stupid daytime media personalities who are pushing this. This is the real thing. And it's coordinated. That's why we saw Claire McCaskill, who's another top Biden surrogate, former Democratic senator from Missouri, call Tucker Carlson a borderline traitor, using the same language. And we heard Hillary Clinton call Tulsi Gabbard a traitor in the past. So that's the first point I want to make. The second point is this narrative was kind of set up through what appears to be some disinformation campaign by the U.S. intelligence. It is true that Tucker Carlson segments are being aired on Russian media, on state media like Channel One. They do that all the time with different U.S. media. Then they have discussions of it. But we have this story that was where somehow Mother Jones, which was cited in this View discussion, Mother Jones obtained a secret Russian government bulletin that was leaked that pressed outlets to highlight Tucker Carlson's Putin helping broadcasts. That's the subtitle of the piece. It wasn't Mother Jones. It was David Korn. And who is David Korn?
The biggest Russiagator there is.
The biggest Russiagator and the most discredited Russiagator.
Yes.
Because his entire book and all of his work was disowned by his own working partner, Michael Isikoff, because it was all based on the Steele dossier, the dodgy dossier produced by a completely discredited former British MI6 agent based on lies and innuendo gathered from Russian sources that he paid. The whole thing's just been shot down. So that's who's getting these supposedly leaked Russian government documents. But, some guy in, the CIA, the State Department, the White House even could have said, yeah, our SIGINT cable, hey, David, we got something for you. Our SIGINT cables intercepted this, or we've got a Russian source and we just turned them. Here's the document. So David Korn writes it up. It shows that, Tucker Carlson is part of the Russian government's information warfare strategy. Then it goes cycled through the White House to the View, and they use it as the basis for calling him a traitor and investigating him. So this is basically a disinformation campaign being waged against us. Why? Because we have to look at the situation on the ground. Yeah, the Russian military has been suffering some losses. It's true. The Ukrainian military has been fighting pretty hard in some places, but it doesn't seem likely that the Ukrainian military is going to win or that they will win. That's why they're begging NATO and the US for a no-fly zone. That's why Zelensky was in Congress calling for a no-fly zone today, because they cannot hold off the Russian advance without the help of NATO and the US military. So it's a similar situation to what we saw in Syria. And you've had Aaron Mate on so many times to talk about the Duma false flag staged event where a chemical weapons attack was blamed on the Assad government, the Syrian army in Duma, Syria, April 2018. We know that it was staged because the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons investigators who were part of the fact-finding mission, who were there on the ground, who went to Martyrs Square, concisely and decisively and clinically demonstrated that it was so. And I knew it was at the beginning. Why? Because these Saudi and US-backed forces had been solidly defeated, and it was their only hope for triggering Western intervention, missile strikes. That's the situation the Ukrainian military finds itself in now. And they're doing everything they can to find some way of creating some pretext for the US to intervene. And so you hear them saying, you hear Ukrainian officials, you hear US officials say, number one, we expect Russia to commit a chemical attack. So we've heard that before. And now they're saying, we expect Russia to seize these biological research labs and then release the dangerous pathogens to kill lots of people, which is crazy. It would go completely against their own interests. It would be the exact opposite of the Russian strategy. But that's what they're saying on The View. I mean, these aren't, military experts. I don't think any of them know what happened in the Syrian war, but they're saying it because they're being fed these talking points. And this talking point is going out through British and US press. So it's a very dangerous moment. And that's why they're so troubled that someone like Tucker Carlson or that RT could have been out there, because those are the only figures with major platforms, or Tulsi Gabbard even, that can actually push back on such a narrative, and that did push back on such a narrative. So they want to isolate them, suppress them, and apparently arrest them and put them on trial so that there's no challenge when this staged event occurs. And that's a really dangerous moment we're in, where a foreign government and a foreign military are seeking to drag our government and our military into World War III. And they'll do anything it takes to make that happen.
If you can watch that video of those women on The View sit there and call for the arrest of people who dissent from war, and that doesn't make your skin crawl, then I guess we're different people, because it should, because that's the real threat. See, it's the propaganda. And once you ingest it, and once you start repeating it, and then you start hating other Americans, and you start calling for I mean, this is worse than any vaccine mandate hatred I could think of. They literally want to arrest people who have a dissenting point of view, even if they're in the military.
Well, it's an extension of the mandate.
It is.
It's an extension of the whole, the whole COVIDian mentality, which was not just that everyone was compelled to demonstrate their compliance and their belief in official propaganda, but that a new category was created to shatter the solidarity of the 99%. I mean, we're divided in so many ways already, but a new category was created, a completely phony category, the unvaccinated versus the vaccinated. And the unvaccinated or millions of Americans were portrayed as unclean disease carriers who wanted to kill your children.
That's right.
And prominent media personalities openly and publicly celebrated and laughed about the deaths of
people who are
unvaccinated people who tended to be unhealthy, conservative radio hosts in their 70s. I mean, it was a whole subgenre of like Daily Beast, shitlib media reporting was the deaths of the unvaccinated. We were all supposed to cheer for that in this kind of ceremonial ritual demonstrating that we're on the good team. And so now that's all. The unvaccinated have gone back to being the Russians. And, as the Democrats stripped out COVID aid to send military aid and weapons to Ukraine in the last appropriations. I mean, it's pretty amazing to watch it just immediately transfer.
They're not even going to fund monoclonals anymore.
No,
that's a new story. They're going to stop funding monoclonals, which treats COVID, but they're going to give $10 billion to Ukraine. Hey,
they're literally defunding a life-saving treatment to kill Russians.
Come on, it's funny.
I mean, it's funny. You can only laugh.
We're doing our live stand-up tour. We're going to Houston. We're going to Dallas. We're going to Los Angeles, Orlando, Tampa, Columbus, Cleveland, Pittsburgh, Des Moines, Omaha, Kansas City, and more. Go to jimmydorecomedy.com for a link for all the tickets and become a premium member. You get all our bonus stuff.